story in a manner that is orderly, backed up by evidence, and somehow or other, 10, 20 years down the road, there's going to be a resolution. Win or lose, there's going to be a resolution. Number two, triggered some action. Somebody is now trying to clean up Manila Bay. They're not very successful, but they're trying very hard. And number three, and perhaps it is a very long term, help spark a mind shift. From being the center of the toilet bowl of Manila, and people begin to appreciate, we should be taking care of this. Look at this. And then there is where the writ of kalikasan is. In 2009, we suffered one of the worst floods in Manila. It was a typhoon. This was the scenes of the typhoon. And then I realized that all of a sudden, and then 6 months later, parched earth incapable of sustaining life. 6 months later, after the diluvio of 6 months before, you have a parched earth. And I said, how stupid can we be? And then I found, that is my mastery. I find laws that nobody else knows about, and then I try to use it. I found a law which mandated rainwater collector in every village, so I filed a case, and then this is what the rainwater looks like. That's it. See? There was an article that Lynn sent me by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Ristoff. You were the one who sent me.
Yeah, I got that.
Oh, you got that, yeah, about the writ of kalikasan. And okay. Actually, I filed that case before the implementing rules became effective, because it does not take me 1 month to prepare a case. It takes me a year to prepare a case, to think through whether or not I will do it, and then try to figure out the evidence. The only problem with this, and that's why it got stuck, although it is a very open and shut case, was that I have 45,000 defendants. How do you sue 45,000 defendants? You have a class suit for a petitioners, for class plaintiffs. But I have not seen any jurisprudence in the Philippines, I do not know if you have in America, of class defendants. So anyway, the court is now figuring out how to go about it. Let them give, we'll get them a problem. It is for us lawyers to give them a problem, to make them earn their salary. Oh, the writ of kalikasan. What is the kalikasan? Is the writ of nature. Just to quickly explain, when the threat, environmental damage, is to the extent of 2 or more cities or provinces, there is a special proceeding where an ordinary citizen, without needing to prove standing, can file directly with the Court of Appeals or with the Supreme Court. It opens up. In other words, it opens the doors of the court. And the beauty here is you don't have to pay docket fees, which in our country is very high. And then this procedure where they... But Madame Christophe was right. This is more symbolic than anything else. My case has been there for 2 years, and they're still trying to figure out how to address the issue of class defendants. Although they were asked to, this has attracted recently more, because we had a big flood again 2 weeks ago, I think. Some of you heard about it. And they said we never learned. But again, it's part action. First, I was able to tell a story that we don't have to be as stupid as we look. There is a law which says we have to catch rainwater. And I always cite Kokinian, and I always cite Lyle and Heng. I said, look at Singapore. They only have 70,000 hectares of land. But 70% of their land area is devoted for rainwater catchment. So, in the process, this is the guy who died. Perhaps some of you heard there was a crash in the Philippines recently. This is the guy who died. I just put his picture there. Because during the pendency of the case, the 2 top agencies that I sued actually scratched their head. They said, he's actually right, there's a law. So they said they wrote this memorandum of agreement that they will comply with the law. I submitted that to the Supreme Court already. This is the plan they have. Now, having said that, shared with you the story of the paintings on the cave walls, then I shared with you a little of what I have done. Now, what is it that we can do? My friends, this, to some of us, this is more real than to others. We've been facing floods and droughts alternately, and it's not a joke anymore. So I said, What can we do? Nick and I, together with Derwood Zelke, have been talking about this for the last, 4 years? A global legal action relating to climate change. What is it? I am glad Dinah is here because she's the international environmental law expert. Why don't we prepare a menu of possible legal actions, both in the local and in the international? In the international, Dinah, you'll have to forgive me because I'm not an expert on international law. But look, what if children of island nations, the most vulnerable countries in the world, were to initiate, of course represented by the state, were to file a case against the highly emitting countries before, I do not know, maybe ICJ, get laws, human rights bodies, etc., etc. What is the cause of action? Planetary malpractice. You ask me what it means later. And then Federated States of Micronesia, those of you who have heard, it was not even just it's not even a case, it was just an expression of what's the environmental impact of the Czech Republic power plant. And then citizens of the world, here, Nick, this is, Nick and I talked about this in Singapore last December. We should start petitioning the World Bank, the UN, to stop calling us developed and developing. Let me talk to the president there, let me talk to Ban Ki-moon. You're wrong, misleading. There was I gave a talk recently and I said, I'm sorry, on Montreal Protocol. I represent Micronesia in the Montreal Protocol, so I gave a talk and I said, I will apologize ahead for any one of you who will use the word developing and develop in relation. You call us dog, you call us cat, you call us whatever, bird and beast, but do not call us developing. I do not mean to disrupt the proceedings, but I mean to disrupt our thinking pattern. Because this is the thinking pattern that got us into the problems we're in now in the first place. So, petition the World Inspection Panel, I don't know. Oh, Lynn, I wrote this specially for you.
I see that.
Whenever I go to America, I am sorry, whenever I go to the so-called developed world, so-called over-consuming world,
Please.
my heart aches. Nick invited me recently I went to see buildings. They have their lights and the air conditioning 24/7. I mean, can we not even ask, maybe you can make it a project of the environmental law students to call the attention of the mayor and the council and whatever to say, turn the goddamn lights off. And then you complain that you cannot reduce your carbon emission because you want to turn on your lights 24/7. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? Another example, and I will not name the school. I was in America school recently. In their corridor, they have their lights on. I said, why are those lights on at 12 o'clock in the morning? At noon, he says, because it's supposed to be art. I said, art? I said, why don't you get your students who are a leading environmental law university in the Philippines, in the United States, get the students to turn that off, break those lights. Oh, here. And then domestic law. Bangladesh, the new Ramon Magsaysay awardee is a Bangladeshi lawyer. She heads the Bangladesh Environmental Law Association. And we talked about this global legal action. She's a very creative woman. He says, what can you do? He says, you know what? 20% of our country is vulnerable to submergence by sea level rise. So what I'm going to do for you, Tony, is that when you decide to file the case, we will also file to our courts to compel our government to declare the 20% as a disaster prone and evacuate everybody. I mean, it's going to shake everything up. Philippines, Danny, you're on. We will be suing the Philippine government because 98% of our people do not have cars. Only 2% of motor vehicles. Yet the 2% are given 99.9% of the roads. There's not even a proper sidewalk for those of you who've been to the Philippines. That's inequitable, etc., etc. I will show you what we plan to do. Students, the PACE Environmental Law Clinic, Kids Against Climate Change. Julia Olson and company are doing this already. This is the chaos that you see in the Philippines now, or in many of the countries for that matter, and this is what we plan to do. 1/3 of the road for sidewalks, 1/3 of the road for bike lanes, and 1/3 for the road for public transportation system. How are we going to do it? We have a beautiful law in the Philippines which says a few people can file a petition with the local government to pass an ordinance. So we are drafting the ordinance already and we're going to do it. The idea is action plan, short term. I would like to ask anyone of you who's interested in helping this to sign up. And you can help either as the academic to see, teach us, Dinah, where the proper venue will be and what the course of action will be. Or you can, better yet, those of you who will commit to do something. There is my good friend, Gustavo Alanis, who is the prime troublemaker of Mexico. I look at you. Medium term, between now and April 22, April 22 is National World Earth Day. We will prepare the menu of options and we will identify those who are willing to take action. We already have MC Meta in Asia. I'm looking at Gustavo Alanis. You're on? Okay. And then on April 20 to 22, I'm inviting you, I will host a party there. Of course, you take care of your own transportation. I have no funding whatsoever. You just bring tents, they're beautiful. Those are 3 hammocks there. One has the name of Nick Robinson, the other one has the name of Sheila Abed, and the other one is reserved for anybody who wants to come. But we will plot and scheme what we are going to do. The ostensible reason is we will pay homage to the Mahaguru of Environmental Law, Professor Nick Robinson. We will give that honor to him, and I will tell you more about why his role was important when we built the School of the Sea. The long term, we're able to tell a story. At the very least, we're able to tell a story in a manner that is orderly and backed up by evidence, and hopefully get a resolution. Number 2, trigger action. And number 3, perhaps spark a mind shift. My case 20 years ago, what I asked for, only last year, January of last year, the Office of the President cancelled all the logging concessions and stopped logging in the Philippines. Took 21 years. That was, we were saying, Nick, it's not 10 years, it's not tomorrow, it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years sometimes. And then the idea is, if we get enough crazy lawyers, and hopefully Sheila is not going to be too busy anymore, and Antonio is not going to be able to join us because he will be receiving our complaint.
And she will receive.
What? Are you the judge already?
Oh, yes. Of course.
Oh, really? Inter-American. Okay. So the idea is, if we get enough crazy lawyers together, who will take action, and the guide is to each his own stroke, different strokes for different folks. Nobody is going to tell you what to do. You know your law better than we do. We will all find simultaneously all around the world. That, my friends, is going to shake up the world. Or at least shake up a few thinking atoms. There will just be 2 guiding principles. Number 1, the time for talk is over. In fact, it has long been over. We should have, we should have done this 30, 40 years ago. And number 2, we will use the law as our thinking tool to spark change. My friends, the story of humanity, the sketch on the right side of the wall is being painted. How are we going to paint it? We have been gifted. We have been gifted with, a little knowledge of the law. We have, at the very least, we have to tell a story. Somebody once said, Scottish guy said, he who tells the story of a nation does not need to care who the leaders are. My friends, in Chinese, I see no Chinese here, but the Chinese character for crisis is represented. Oh, there are 2 Chinese who speak Chinese. The character for crisis is represented by 2 other characters, crisis and opportunity. Crisis is danger and opportunity. What is the danger? We all know that. What is the opportunity? The opportunity is for us to paint a beautiful picture on the right side of the wall. Take home messages, just 3. 1, environment is not about the birds and the bees, it is about land, air, and water, the vital organs of life. Number 2, OCC and LCC, over-consuming countries and low-consuming countries. And if I can get IUCN with my good friend being the new boss, Antonio Benjamin, to pass a resolution, send it to the United Nations to say, please stop calling. Well, Brazil is now getting to be a OCC. Maybe you will support Philippines. We don't want to become an OCC. Then call us easy, low-consuming countries. And number 3, the time for talk is over. Before I close, I will thank the Mahaguru who insisted that I come. I said, Nick, you know, it costs too much. I will just deliver a call. He says, no, Tony, you have to call because. And then he tempted me. He said, I want to discuss with you how we can change the terminology with the United Nations and start calling developed and developing country. I said, okay, buy my ticket. And of course, Lynn Harmon, who worked very hard to get me here. Antonio Benjamin, who I had the good fortune of riding in the same plane last night, in the same cab last night, who has always been an inspiration to me. Ben Bowen, who was here earlier. Sheila Abed, I met her 7, 8 years ago, and I've always been very, very impressed. 2 other lady friends, Ko King Yen, Lai Ling Heng, Dinah Shelton, of course. See, if you see that there is more women I named than men, it is because I believe in the line that says, if you want anything said, give it to a man. But if you want anything done, and done well, give it to a woman. Correct? My friends, one American statesman once said, and I'd like to phrase this, says perhaps you and I and many of us are lucky at our age we're still alive. We've seen the fruits of some of our labor. By the way, Danny Valenzuela, the Filipino, was one of the products of the class. You don't remember the class in Subic that IUCN conducted that was a very worthy project, by the way, and we should endorse that. You create a core, a cadre of good environmental lawyers, professors. He says perhaps it is the destiny of people who follow the path of their ideas to realize that the path is endless. And that in walking in, we do not find the end of the path, nor the fulfillment of our ideals. Rather, we only find the joy of walking. Well, there's Ben Lowell. I just mentioned you, Ben, one of the gurus of the world. My friends, I've been talking too much. I've been standing up here for the last 20 minutes. Now, I'd like all of you to please stand up, stretch your legs, and please read this with me.